Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Nadir Bitiev. I am an ID to the President of the Republic of Abkhazia.
Can you tell me about your personal history?
Well, I grew up in Abkhazia, went to the Abkhaz kindergarten, finished school here, graduated here. However, I did university in overseas. My first uni was in Moscow from 93 to 95, right after war, and the second one was in New Zealand, and that's basically it. I've studied in the United States as well prior to the war, in high school in Seattle, and I was supposed to go back, but then the war started and I decided not to. I stayed here. That's about it. I came back to Abkhazia in 2005, right after the inauguration of current president Sergei Vasilievich Bagapsh, and I started to work with him the very first week I arrived. First in the Department of the Analysis and Information, then he moved me up to be his advisor, and then I became his AD. That's pretty much it. I'm married, I've got a son.
Were you active in the war with Georgia in 1992-93?
Well, to the extent 16-year-old boy can be active in the war, I probably, what I did contribute, I mean, my AK-47 RPG is still there. I got $500 of my father then, and I ran off from home, from Moscow back to, not to Sukhum. Sukhum was taken by Georgian troops then, to the Abkhaz side. I signed with the Abkhaz regular forces. Then my parents got to Abkhazia, they dragged me out, I escaped again, got back here and was here till the ceasefire in August. That's pretty much it. I did not participate in the capturing of Sukhum because I entered then Moscow State Linguistics University, and that's my participation.
Now, you mentioned the Linguistics University. Can you tell me what languages you speak?
I speak Russian, Abkhaz, Ossetian, English, and Spanish, although then my language was French. My first language was French, my first foreign language. And well, the way you enter university, State Linguistics University in Moscow, then you have to know one foreign language, and then you study your main language. So I knew English, and I studied French. That was it, but I can't remember French anymore. It's been a long time.
Can you describe the reasons for the conflict with Georgia in 1992 and 93 briefly?
Well, it's probably very simple. When the Soviet Union broke up, well, I can give you political reasons, I will tell you what I remember, what happened. Abkhazia got invaded by Georgia. It was a brutal, large-scale invasion from the land, air, and sea. That was the day when the Abkhaz parliament was discussing the issue of federative construction of the Georgian state. Then no one thought of the independence or secession. See, what happened then is that Georgia broke off the Soviet Union, and they abolished the constitution of 1931 and went to the previous constitution of 1918 or 1919 of Menshevik Georgia. And Abkhazia supported that move because that moved Abkhazia also to the constitution of 1924, which recognizes the independence of the Republic of Georgia, but according to which both constitution of Abkhazia and Georgia, Abkhazia is not part of Georgia. So basically, breaking off from the Soviet Union, abolishing the Soviet Socialist Republic of Georgia, and becoming again, Georgian Republic, Georgia broke away from us also. Now when they realized that, they simply sent the troops to solve the Abkhaz problem by force, and that was it. That was the beginning of the conflict, and it went full scale straight away, like any war probably does.
Okay. Now, an EU Commission recently placed blame for the conflict in South Ossetia on Georgia. To an outside observer, it appeared to be a very risky move by Georgia's President Saakashvili to order the attack on South Ossetia. What do you think his strategy was?
That's very difficult to say knowing Saakashvili. I mean, he does this kind of things. He continues to do actually this kind of things. It's probably best to ask him or the so-called around him. However, if you're referring to the report of the United Nations, the European Union report by Heidi Tagliavini, that report acknowledges the fact that Georgia started the war, which is really important to us. It actually shows that by using prohibited weapon system on the civilian city, is actually committing a military crime. Now I can't judge what the other players there did, but that fact shows that Georgian side in South Ossetia committed a military crime, and the Abkhaz side, that very report shows, did not commit any military crimes in the upper part of Kodor Gorge, because this is the only operation that was undertaken by Abkhaz forces, since this is the only portion of the Abkhaz territory not under control of, that was not under control of the Abkhaz authority prior to the conflict in South Ossetia in 2008. Abkhazia several times stated that after the violation of the basic agreement in 2006, when Saakashvili deployed his troops into the upper part of Kodor Gorge, that Abkhazia has got the right to restore its territorial integrity, including by inclusive military means, and that's exactly what Abkhaz forces did. However, no bloodshed occurred during that operation. That was mainly psychological operation, and I am glad to say it was successful, and no people or no houses, no people were hurt, and no houses were burned.
Can you tell me very briefly about your experience in South Ossetia during 2008, what you saw?
Well, that was my time off actually. I went to New Zealand, and when the war broke out, I had to fly back because my grandmother is in South Ossetia, in Skinval actually. She's got a house right there in the middle of the city, and what I saw was completely burnt down, destroyed town. When I got there, Georgian army still bombarded the city. The Russian troops were not there at that stage, but they were already advancing through the rocky tunnel through the main Caucasian Gorge, which is the border between South and North Ossetia. And so the Georgian forces were withdrawing already, but continued to shell the city, and I saw a lot of casualties, a lot of destruction. This destruction of Skinval was simply...
So just to be clear, you were there in advance of the Russian troops, and the Georgian invasion and attack had already taken place?
Oh yes, yes. A lot of people went there.